David, listen, thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
No problem.
You didn't have to travel far.
No, down the road.
So basically, I got to know your son, Gareth, and he's a beautiful soul.
He is.
And I said, I'd like to get your dad on the podcast. And he was like, it's quite a long way, mate. It's going to be a bit difficult. And then I said, I don't mind, I'll come up here. So this is the first of 350 episodes that I've done outside my studio.
Whoa. I'm honored.
And I want to share something with you. In 1990, when you kind of woke up to everything, I was 15 years old. You were 38. I'm now 49. And it's in the last few years I've started my awakening process.
Right.
So when it comes to time, non-linear time, yes, I haven't really awakened. You've been awakening since 1990. But chronologically, it's only 10 years after you that I really kind of started figuring things out. I didn't know much about you because I've been busy in my life chasing medical career and
Sure.
fighting. But I'll be honest with you, the system had programmed me to think about you in a certain way. You were slightly crazy.
Yeah, I hope so.
You were a bit fringy. Funny reptiles were associated with you. Reptile people. And New Age. Anti-God. Dangerous man. Bit of a weirdo. Don't want to be associated with him.
All of it wrong. Apart from the reptiles, that's true.
And I hadn't read any of your books. Hadn't watched any of your videos. But this is what the system had fed through to my awareness. And then I heard about your son. I met him. I did an amazing podcast with him. And then messages started coming through to me, emails and DMs. Oh my goodness, Gareth is so normal. Not like his dad. Oh, Gareth is so cool. Wow, didn't expect that a son of David Icke to be like him. And a lot of people reached out to me and said, don't have David on your podcast. You don't want to be associated with him.
Oh, I've heard that before.
It'll be bad for your brand, Ahmed. It'll discredit you being associated with him. But here we are.
Yeah, here we are. Much of what I call the mainstream alternative media, much of which has come out of the mainstream, they won't touch me with a barge pole either because...
I'm touching you.
Yeah, because they don't want to be discredited by association with me. Because, programming is, it's like having wet paint on your hands. Everything you touch gets paint on it. And it's the same with programming. And you can believe that you are deprogrammed because you have seen that the world and those powers running the world are not exactly what you thought they were before, like presidents and prime ministers and so on, politicians. And what happens is your prison cell perceptions, which are downloaded your entire life, you've described it very well, your prison cell just expands a bit. And what you do then is you associate that with awakening. But the prison cell is still in place. It's just that you're seeing the world in a slightly broader way, but it's not broad enough to encompass me. Because, my philosophy is I want to know what's happening. I want to know what this reality is. I want to know who we are, what we're doing here. And when you realize that we as humans can only see a tiny band of frequency called visible light, and therefore almost everything in the space you're looking at is denied your visual perception, then I think a bit of humility is called for. Like, maybe there's not just a bit more to know. Maybe there is infinitely more to know. And I've always approach what I do from the standpoint of what Socrates, the ancient Greek philosopher, is quoted as saying, which is basically, to know is to know you know nothing. And what that does is it means that whatever you know or think you know, there's always more to know. I mean, that should be a gimme. But unfortunately, what happens is people, they get a certain insight, the prison cell widens slightly, and they think that's awakening. And they think, I got it now. None of us have got it. We're getting it. And if you stop and think I've got it, then you're not getting any more, because you've become an eddy, a whirlpool in the river of awareness, the river of knowledge, the river of insight is all flowing past, but you're in this whirlpool eddy thinking you've got it. And what has happened, of course, with the mainstream media is they completely ignore me now. I mean, they used to just ridicule me and ridicule me. And then I became dangerous, and I was dangerous. And then now we're in this phase of ignoring me. But the mainstream of the alternative media is still in its eddy. It's a slightly bigger one than the mainstream media, not too much bigger, honestly, with many of them. And therefore, they see me in much the same terms as the mainstream media do. I mean, they say, oh, yeah, he's right about this and he's right about that, but, oh, you've seen what he's saying about this. And they're in a slightly bigger prison than those they call out and claim to expose.
David, we'll come to the mainstream alternative media in a second.
Yeah.
I just want to say something about your book, right? So basically, when I was trying to research you, I was like, oh, shit. There's a lot of material.
Oh, yeah.
Man, he's written a lot of books. Oh, my God, there's a lot of videos. So, you know what? I'm sorry, I'm very last minute. I'm just going to read the latest book. Right? And now you told me there's another book. So I've read the book. And what I've learned about you is how much we have in common and how much actually I share your views. So it's not like I've been biased or corrupted by your previous work. I've already come to the same conclusions as you. And when I read your book, what I formulated in my head, my opinion about you is, you're a deeply philosophical man. You're very well researched. There's no quackery going on. You're very balanced, very nuanced, and very deep and profound. I mean, and you tie in scientific concepts, philosophical concepts. You're up to scratch with geopolitics, the psychology of man. Kudos.
Very kind.
I'm being serious. So what I'm trying to say is like, and it's not like I read your stuff in the past and now I'm like, oh yeah, I've been indoctrinated by you or I've biased. No, I have lived most of my life not knowing anything about you. And because I do so many podcasts and I read a lot of books, I've just finished something called the Mitochondria Manifesto, which ties in with what you've actually written. I think everything happens for a reason. That book talks about how energy, light, is transformed into what we deem as physical manifestation. Mm-hmm. Light from the sun becomes food via the plants, which are eaten by animals, and then we eat it. And ultimately, we still have light within us. We are beings of light, magnetism, water, and energy. You actually touch upon all of this in your book. And my brain was getting blown apart when I was reading you write about it. I was like, oh my God. And you want to hear something crazy? I mean, I told you something crazy. On my drive here, I was like, I bet I'll walk into the loo and I'll see David Icke in his jumper standing at the urinal and I'll be like, well, this is fucking awkward. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, it did. It wasn't awkward though.
It wasn't awkward. And I think because I already anticipated it. But what's even fascinating is in your first chapter, you talk about what is above, what is below. You talk about the holographic man. We know someone mutually, a friend, but I don't know how well you know him. Someone called Dr. Robin Kelly from New Zealand. Have you ever heard of him?
Vaguely, yeah.
So your son, not Gareth, Jamie and Richard Willett went out to New Zealand.
That's right.
They went
That's
to
why I
interview.
heard it, yeah.
And he knew your partner. And he introduced your partner to Jamie and Richard.
That's right.
And she came here. And so he said to me on the phone today, you know, remind him that I'm the one that did the matchmaking.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that was a strange sequence of events. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I do know him. Yeah.
And so basically, he also wrote about the holographic man, but independently, and came to these conclusions as you did, which I just find amazing. The similarities. It's just incredible.
Well, this is how I see it. Anyway, the whole conspiracy is about control of perception, because from perception comes our behavior. We behave as we do because we perceive as we do. And my view is, and I'm not alone, this goes back into ancient times, is that this is what we would call today a simulation. And the idea is to hold our perception of reality within the simulation, which is all about holding your frequency within the simulation. So what you're interacting with is the simulation. But a real awakening, which goes much, much further than the slightly bigger prison cell awakening, a fake awakening, is when you can expand your awareness beyond the frequency, quote, walls of this simulation. And then you're tapping into infinite possibility. You're tapping into infinite insight, infinite awareness, infinite knowledge, infinite intuition. And when you tap into that, you get the same stuff. And therefore, when people say, I was amazed reading your book because I'd come to the same conclusion. Yeah, well, you must have tapped into the same stuff then, because it's there for everybody. It's just that most people live in a myopia, and it's not having a go at them. From cradle to grave, they're programmed and pressured to live in a myopia. I refuse to, because, you know, when I started out and I went through this historic levels of ridicule, and, you know, I still do for people that haven't looked at my stuff, but it's not like it was. You have to come to terms with the fact that if you're going to go with this philosophy of whatever I know, there's always more to know. So what don't I know? You know, you get to a point, you think, well, I think I got that, but what don't I know? That takes you deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole, or in another analogy, more and more of expanded awareness. And as you do that, you are leaving the perceptual prison cells that most people are programmed from cradle to grave from their parents, not because they're bad people, because they've been through the same programming, from school, university, media, peer pressure, people at work. There is this program, and everyone's kind of agreed that this is normal. That's their perception of normal. This is the real world, as they will call it. But if you're not satisfied with that, and you want to expand your awareness and understanding deeper and deeper and deeper into the field of infinity, then you very quickly are going to leave the sense of normal that most of the population have. And you have to be not only aware of that, you have to be okay with that. Because when you are saying things that are outside the normal, then most people are going to think of you, as they do of me, that they're crazy, they're strange, they're extreme, they're dangerous, whatever. And all you're doing is concluding a different perception of reality to them. And I've been talking now since I started in 1990 about how being different is a crime. Because if you're different from the normal, then you are attacked, vilified, dismissed, marginalized by that sense of normal. And it's become a crime, and not just now, but through human history as we know it. It's become a crime to be different. And I don't want to be like everyone else.
That's you.
It's my worst nightmare.
That's you and me both, buddy.
Yeah.
So, I left, I was in a cult within Islam. I mean, some would argue that Islam's a cult, but I was actually in a cult called Ahmadiyya. And the cult believes that the second coming of Jesus came along in 1898 in Qadian, India. So I grew up in that cult. I was born in Scotland into this cult, not knowing any better, that Jesus had already come and gone. And so most Muslims didn't think of me and my group of people at the time as being Muslims. I've left that cult. I left that cult a long time ago because I just wasn't comfortable with the teachings, even as a kid. I wasn't comfortable with the teachings of Islam, of the God that was presented to me. I thought he was a very childish, petulant, worship me, and if you don't, you're going to hell kind of thing. It was like, what kind of God is this? If a God of love wouldn't really care if you worship them or not, because we're flawed, we're only human. And then I looked at other religions and I thought, well, the Christian God and the Jewish God are the same Abrahamic kind of gods, same wrathful, petty, childlike gods. I'm not really into this either. So I kind of rejected religion. But I sensed that there was still something bigger. I did not believe that this was all just by accident, evolution. Yeah. And I think the reason why a lot of people also find you quite threatening is because they are coming from a religious background. So the Christians will be like, oh my God, he's all New Age and he's anti-God and he's evil, he's doing the devil's work. But the truth is, you're not. You make it very clear, you're not New Age.
No, I'm not.
You're rejecting religion and that wrathful God.
Yeah,
isn't serving the devil.
Yeah, what I find when I observe the world is that religion is everywhere, and I don't just mean what my father used to call bricks and mortar religion.
Oh yeah.
I mean belief systems that are on the same theme in the way they work as religion. For instance, you mentioned the New Age. I'd say the New Age is a religion. And you've got all the other major religions. But then I look at science. It's a religion. There's an orthodoxy. That's the religious story. There are the holy books. They are the orthodoxy science books. And anyone that goes outside of the orthodoxy is marginalized. They're a blasphemer.
They're banished.
It's the same thing. You are a wonderful example. All you were doing was asking questions rightly, and you were marginalized and dismissed and thrown out because you're a blasphemer against the orthodoxy. And what is the orthodoxy? Oh, it's whatever they tell me it is. Yeah, okay, right. You're a doctor, right? Yeah, I'm a doctor. Whatever they tell me I am, yeah. And it's religion is everywhere because religion is a belief system, okay? This is a massively important area. So you've got this simulated reality, which is created to not just to control, but to mesmerize our perception of reality. So we're living in a reality we think is solid and everything, when you only got to do a little bit of research to realize it's not. It's all illusory. But you have to keep people from that expansion of awareness, true awakening, to realize the nature of the true I, which is consciousness, a state of being aware. You've got to do everything you can to stop that expansion of consciousness. So what you do is you get people to identify with the labels of human and the subdivisions of human, the IMRs as I call them, IMR Muslim, IMR Christian, IMR black, IMR white, whatever. And you are trying to put people, working to put people into limitations of perception. Limitations of perception. And that is the opposite of, okay, I think I got this. Now, what don't I know? Expansion of awareness, expansion of questioning. No, I've got it now. I've got it. I'm a Christian. I've got it. So what's a Christian? Well, what it says here and what that guy in the frock tells me. And then you've got, you say to someone else, what are you? I'm a Muslim. Okay, what's a Muslim? Well, it's what's in this book and what this man tells me. It stands in front. Okay, you're a Jew. What's that mean? Oh, well, it means I go to the synagogue, like he goes to the mosque and he goes to the church, and it's all in a book. And that guy in black tells me what's going on. Hindu, same. And then you've got right-wing politics, left-wing politics. You've got all these New Age. They all have their rules and regulations and their limitation. So, and that's the idea, to put people into belief systems that are unquestionable. That means you've circled the wagons around your mind. And so, if you are a Christian or a Muslim or a Hindu or right-wing politics, left-wing politics, whatever, there are areas you immediately deny yourself. Areas of research, areas of potential understanding, you've denied them. Because if you go there, well, I might come up with information that means that I've got to leave the Christian belief system because they don't make sense anymore, or the Muslim belief system, or the Hindu belief system, or the right-wing politics belief system, left-wing politics belief system, cultural belief system. And so instead of doing that, because people have this desire to be part of a group for some reason, I've never had it my entire life. That's why I've always worked alone. But that denial to stay within the group think, the belief system, means that vast, massive numbers of humanity deny themselves all these areas of potential research and exploration. And funnily enough, sits back in amazement, can't believe it, that's where the answers lie. As you well know, in those areas that these belief systems deny you going.
Absolutely. I mean, and just, you call them religions, I call them all cults, whether it's a climate cult, whether it's...
Another religion.
A cult.
Yeah.
Religious cult.
Yeah.
Because the other thing, because it's a cult, because the analogies you gave were perfect, but there's a leadership, an authority, then there's the indoctrination, and it's enforced by the fellow cult members. And it's control of your life, money, everything. And the ultimate punishment of a cult is banishment, ridicule, ostracization. And in medicine, it's like that. It's religion. Because basically, like you just said, it stops you having that broad picture, right brain kind of attitude to be curious, to be like a child. It pigeonholes you.
Left. It's interesting. I have this phrase, life often gives you your greatest gifts brilliantly disguised as your worst nightmare. And of course, I guess you've been through that as well. And all that incredible ridicule that I went through in the early 1990s, and actually through the rest of the 1990s, it set me free. It set me free of the prison that most people live in, which is the fear of what other people think. Mm-hmm. And once you step out of that fear, because when you fear what other people think, you're not you anymore. You are what they say you should be.
Yeah.
And from my perspective, I'm not having it. I will be what I am, not what you say I should be. And what that does, especially when you let go of this fear of what other people think, because from my experience, I'm sure yours too, is people who say one thing and ridicule you, they stop you in the street a few years later and ask you what's going on. So you know, but the thing is, if you don't say it at the time because you fear what people will think, then it's no good years and years later saying, I knew this was going to happen, because people go, yeah, sure you did, mate.
But it's even worse than that, David. There's some people who publicly would say they disagree with you, but privately will say they agree with you.
Yes, exactly.
It's not even in the future. It's in the now. They'd be like, oh yeah, I can't say that.
That's a wonderful example of fearing what other people think, and taking into account consequences for actions. Now, of course, you look at the consequences of walking in front of a truck as you walk across the road. I'm not talking about those consequences. I'm talking about the consequences of doing what you know to be right. And it's this intimidation, whether it's your career being threatened, whether it's your income being threatened, whatever, it's your reputation, your image being threatened. It's this intimidation not to do what you know to be right. And the answer to sorting this world out is that people start doing that. You know, instead of looking to keep other people happy all the time, so you stay within the group, so that they'll think of you, oh yeah, he knows what he's doing, he's in the real world, he is. You express your uniqueness, and what happens, because once you are in a situation where you feel free to express what you think, you then start to realize that there are actually other people who are in the same position as you. I'm going to not say this because, I mean, what will people think? Who actually think the same as you. And the only thing that stopped that person talking to that person and that person to this person and coming together is that they were all in fear of the consequences of saying what they believe to be right. And it's time just to drop that, because the consequences, I mean, how did we get here? We got here because of that. Why is it that throughout known human history, the few have always controlled the many? Because the many have always looked up to the few, a hierarchy, to tell them what to do, tell them what to think. And even though they haven't maybe agreed with it much of the time, they fear not obeying. And so all the way through history, we've had the few controlling the many, and that's how we got here. And through AI, they want control of the many by the few on a scale we've never actually seen in known human history. So what was it Einstein said about doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results? It's time that we tried something else, which is, instead of conforming and staying part of a group for the sake of it, we express our uniqueness. And when we do that, we'll realize how many people actually agree with us, but are keeping their heads down. And it's interesting when you talked earlier about the holographic nature of reality that I've been talking about all these years. One of the great, really amazing traits, phenomena of the holographic state is that every part of the whole, or every part of the whole, is a smaller version of the whole. So because of the way the frequencies in holograms interact, it means that the information of the whole picture is contained in every part of the picture. And so if you cut a holographic print in 4 and you fire the laser at the 4, you won't get a quarter of the picture. You'll get a quarter version of the whole picture. And what you're talking about there, about the cult and the cults, plural, and the hierarchies, is classic holographic phenomena. Because if you look at the way that these individual cults, as you describe, are ruled and controlled through this hierarchy, and everyone's looking up at the guru and the cult leader, well, you then look at the world as a whole, and it works in exactly the same way. It doesn't matter what level of society you're looking at, whether it's a religious belief or a political belief, or whether it's the planet as a whole, society. They all work the same.
I agree.
And what I'm saying is we don't have to conform to that. Hierarchy is not the only way that we can organize ourselves. In fact, it's the way that the few control the many. That's how hierarchy works. That's why we have hierarchies everywhere, because it means a tiny few can control the rest of the pyramids.
So you know what? I agree with all of that. So one of the things, before I read the book, the things that I've had like this mother load in the last 2 years. And the things that have come up in my head that are really pressing are Bank of International Settlements, Zionism, ultra-Zionism, evil force. We can't put our faith in false messiahs and idols. We all, as human beings, have to lift and elevate ourselves. That God resides within every single one of us, and that we're all part of a consciousness, that we are all frequency and energy beings. I've been coming to all these conclusions, and some people have said, "Oh, you're a controlled opposition," but then when I read your stuff, you go places where I've just mentioned where other people won't talk about it. They won't talk about Bank of International Settlements. They might talk about wokeism, but they won't go any deeper than that. It's all just as superficial, and that comes back to the mainstream alternative media. So I have lost a lot of supporters because I've been questioning Elon Musk and Bobby Kennedy and Trump. And like you, I'm not afraid to speak up. Look, I gave up my 25-year surgical consultant career, to do the right thing. You think I'm not going to do that now? You think I'm just going to keep a few subscribers, keep my mouth shut and go, yeah, Trump is our hero? I'm always going to speak my mind and see the truth and say the truth that I see it as. But there's a lot in the mainstream alternative media. I feel like they're either bad actors or they're misinformed. And you talked about this in the book beautifully, and you highlight the case that, you, for example, were talking right from the beginning, you got it right, but now that you've got these heroes out there who are pushing, now they're the hero dissidents. And it's like, really? I mean, can you just expand on that a bit? Because
Malhotra and Campbell and all these people, they were pushing it until it became untenable, or in one case that had a personal tragedy which opened their eyes. And suddenly, okay, fine, people change their minds, and that's fine. But they're then presented as the heroes and the go-to people over something that actually bought. And this is a thing that I identified quite a long time ago. Suddenly these people started appearing out of the mainstream into the, quote, alternative media, or most of them had, and then become these people talking about the conspiracy. The thing is that so many of them, the great majority, came in, and they came in from a certain specialization, like, oh, I'm anti-woke, as you mentioned. And then they start...
like Peterson.
Peterson's a classic. I was just going to mention his name. Peterson's a classic because he came in with a specialization from a psychology point of view. And then they start pontificating about the conspiracy they know absolutely nothing about. And they get picked up. There's two kinds of people that of the, I would say, the negative variety that came into the alternative media. And one is that which knows exactly what it's doing. Now, they are the few. They're the place people. And then you've got the others who they're promoted like the place people because they know next to nothing about the wider conspiracy.
And they're also those people, because I know a few of them, and I've seen them and met them, they are self-promoters. They want the limelight. They will sell their soul to the devil for the fame and the money. And the people know that and give it to them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's very simple. You don't need too many people who are completely in the know of what they're doing to create this fake alternative media and misdirect people. And one of the flashing red lights is, are they promoting Trump or not? Because, you know, from my point of view, if you're a journalist or if you're alternative in any way, you don't take political sides, because the first thing you realize as you research this is we live in one-party states. Actually, we live in a one-party world, if the truth be told, the cult. But we live in one-party states. So you have the right and you have the left, and they move between each other. But the outcome is invariably the same. The rhetoric's different. The emphasis is different. Who they say they represent is different. But the outcome is the same. And it just goes on and on and on and on. And so you had these people come in to the alternative media, and invariably they were eulogizers of Donald Trump, who is not fighting the deep state. He is the deep state. He's part of it. He's a gopher, like all these politicians are, for the deep state. But this is the way I've seen this. I have this phrase, know the outcome and you'll see the journey. If you don't know what the outcome is planned to be, then everything seems random. It seems to be bewildering. Why is this happening? Why is that happening? Why are they doing this? Why are they doing it like that? Because they're much better for people if they did it like that. Bewildering. But once you know what the outcome is planned to be, suddenly these bewildering random events become very clear stepping stones to the outcome. And so what is the biggest outcome that they want? They want a fusion of humans and artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence becomes the human mind. Instead of having to manipulate information to manipulate perception, you give people perception direct through AI. That's the idea. And people would be staggered to see how far along the road this has gone, in terms of manipulating technologically generated electromagnetic fields to infiltrate the brain, and the perception the brain manifests as a sense of reality. And so the left in politics, well, not the left that I grew up in, that was challenging the
anti-war,
the power of the anti-war. They were challenging the power of what were then millionaires, now billionaires. Not that left. It's what we might call the woke left. They've pretty much bought it, and so they can get the hard sell of this AI human fusion coming from your Bill Gateses and your Klaus Schwabs and your Ray Kurzweils at Google, who are saying we need to be connected to artificial intelligence because we'll be gods. It's the next stage of human evolution.
2.0.
Yeah, it's the fourth industrial revolution, right? So you give them the hard sell, because they'll probably, almost certainly most of them will buy it. But you've got a problem with, and you had this problem, certainly these people that weren't buying that and were very skeptical of artificial intelligence, very skeptical of transhumanism and the fusion of humans, and were skeptical of people like Elon Musk. But you've got to get them, because in the words of Ray Kurzweil at Google, this so-called futurist, strange bloke, they all are, from years ago, is that by 2030, they want this human AI fusion to be well underway. And so you've got a period where you have to get that pushbacker group, shall we say, skeptical group, on board. with the AI. And so out of nowhere, Elon Musk buys Twitter, is allowed to buy Twitter because, people just, they want something to be a certain way, and they'd rather the false perception that it is a certain way than to realize that it's not.
Yeah, that's because they want the comfortable lie rather than the harsh truth.
This is why hope is a tremendous force of manipulation. Hope's always in the future. Give them hope.
Yep.
And then they'll accept shite now. But so we had this situation where the right, as it became known, the pushbacker right, shall we say, realized that it wasn't difficult, that the deep state, quote, controlled the social media platforms and controlled Twitter. And people were thrown off Twitter for having the wrong opinion, even a mildly wrong opinion. Yeah, okay. And they were saying what? The deep state controls Twitter. Okay, yeah, I agree with you. I was thrown off it. And then along comes Elon Musk, and he's allowed to buy it. Well, not just he bought it, but a load of people like Saudi Arabia connected, Qatar connected, people that really believe in freedom of speech were also part of buying it. And so he then starts releasing some of these so-called Twitter files to show that, yeah, before I bought it, the deep state owned Twitter. Yeah, so here's a question, Elon. Why did they sell it to you then? Why did they allow you to buy it when you were claiming to be a free speech absolutist, when the deep state, as you call it, had Twitter exactly where it wanted it? So soon as that happened, I realized it was a scam, not least because I'd been tracking Musk for a long time and realized he was ticking all the boxes of the global cult, as I call it, agenda. And then you start to realize very quickly what the game is. Because suddenly the alternative media, I mean, people like Alex Jones, who goes back, not as far as I go back, but he goes back a long way, who was calling out the deep state and calling out Elon Musk at one point, suddenly is on his knees with his tongue out, right? To Trump and to Musk. They can do no wrong, no matter what wrong they do. And suddenly this pushbacker group were seeing him in a totally different light. Because he let them back on Twitter, he was one of them. I remember there was an activist in the Netherlands called Eva van Dingenbroek, who did a video in 2022 saying that Musk is not our friend and that he's a transhumanist. As soon as he bought Twitter, forget all that, mate. Now he's one of us. He's our friend. You can't say anything against Elon. And I saw this everywhere. And so Elon Musk suddenly became the hero, and crucially, he stopped being called out for all the boxes he was ticking for the global cult agenda, not least through SpaceX and Tesla and all of these things.
And still is. That's what's crazy. Yeah. He still is pushing that agenda every fucking day. And people seem to have this massive blind spot. And you know how you talk about this left-right shift? I mean, the analogy I give is like a sailing boat tacking in the wind. It goes that way and that way, starboard, port, starboard. Yeah. But it goes straight ahead. The final destination is always straight ahead.
Exactly.
It's the same. And people don't seem to see that. But in the book, you really put it down so eloquently, this hard sell, soft sell. And it's how about they're constantly manipulating the public. And ultimately, what they want is you to stay at the casino table playing the game. Yeah. What they don't want you to do is go and walk away. Yeah. And that's, they sell you the shite. And people are so desperate for hope and someone to lead them. And one of the reasons why I think I like your book and your message was because you are telling people to empower themselves.
Yeah.
You're telling everybody, lift yourself up and don't put your hope in someone else. This is the answer. And this is very difficult because most people don't want to do that, David.
See, there's so many levels to this.
So many.
Oh, there's so many levels to it. And so you move between the levels and people think you're crazy if you go outside of their normal. But there are so many levels to appreciate. It's now becoming clearer and clearer and clearer in the realm of quantum physics that your consciousness, what science calls the observer, consciousness in other words, your consciousness is rearranging the energy at the quantum below matter level to mirror your perceptions. I mean, this is really, really, really important to take your power back and take control of your life back.